The Quiet Revolution: How Inner Peace Becomes Your Greatest Strength in a World That Rewards the Loudest Voice and Celebrates the Quickest Reaction. There exists a different breed of human being. These individuals move through chaos like water flowing around stones, effortlessly, purposefully, without resistance. They don't announce their presence with grand gestures or demand attention through dramatic displays. Instead, they carry something far more powerful, an unshakable inner calm that transforms every room they enter. You've encountered them before. Perhaps it was the colleague who remained composed during a heated meeting while everyone else erupted in frustration. Maybe it was the friend who listened to your crisis without immediately offering solutions or judgment, simply holding space for your pain. Or it could have been a stranger whose mere presence seemed to slow down time itself, creating a pocket of peace in an otherwise frantic world. What makes these people different isn't their circumstances. They face the same storms, heartbreaks, and uncertainties as everyone else. The distinction lies in something deeper, more fundamental. They've discovered the profound difference between reacting to life and responding to it. This isn't a skill they were born with. It's a wisdom they cultivated through experience, often through the very trials that break others. The alchemy of transformation. The journey toward unshakable calm rarely begins with peace. Most people who embody this quality were once its opposite. Overthinkers who analyzed every conversation, people-pleasers who bent themselves into impossible shapes, controllers who believed they could orchestrate life's outcomes through sheer willpower. They were the ones who stayed awake at night, replaying conversations, searching for hidden meanings in casual remarks, and constructing elaborate plans to prevent future disappointments. But something shifted. Perhaps it was the 100th time their careful plans crumbled, despite their best efforts. Maybe it was the moment they realized that their constant vigilance hadn't prevented a single heartbreak. Or it could have been the day they understood that their need to control everything was actually controlling them. Whatever the catalyst, they reached a turning point where exhaustion met enlightenment. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of unlearning, releasing the belief that emotional intensity equals emotional intelligence, that immediate reactions demonstrate authenticity, that staying perpetually alert protects against life's uncertainties. They began to understand that true strength often looks like stillness, that wisdom frequently whispers rather than shouts, and that the most profound responses sometimes involve no response at all. The neuroscience of stillness from a scientific perspective. This transformation involves actual changes in brain structure and function. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system, becomes less reactive through repeated exposure to mindful awareness. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation, strengthens its connections and influence. This isn't metaphorical, it's measurable through neuroimaging studies. What this means practically is that calm individuals have developed what neuroscientists call response flexibility. Between the moment they perceive a stimulus and their reaction to it, they've created space, sometimes just milliseconds, but enough to make the difference between unconscious reaction and conscious response. In that tiny gap lies their superpower, choice. When someone criticizes them, they feel the initial sting just like anyone else. But instead of immediately defending or counterattacking, they pause. In that pause, they consider, is this criticism valid? Is the person speaking from their own pain? Will responding defensively improve or worsen the situation? What outcome do I actually want here? This internal consultation happens so quickly, it appears effortless, but it represents years of practice in emotional self-regulation. The misunderstood nature of calm society often misinterprets calmness as indifference or emotional numbness. People assume that those who don't react dramatically must not feel deeply. This misconception couldn't be further from the truth. Calm individuals often possess the richest emotional lives precisely because they've learned to experience feelings fully without being overwhelmed by them. They understand the difference between feeling anger and being consumed by rage, between experiencing sadness and drowning in despair, between acknowledging fear and being paralyzed by anxiety. Their emotions are like weather patterns they observe from a mountain peak, real, impactful, but temporary. They can see the storm approaching, experience its intensity, and trust in its eventual passing. This perspective allows them to offer something invaluable to others: emotional stability in times of crisis. When others are spiraling, they become the steady presence that reminds everyone that this moment, however difficult, will pass. They don't minimize others' pain or rush to fix everything. They simply model the possibility of remaining centered while fully acknowledging life's challenges. The paradox of detached engagement, one of the most fascinating aspects of truly calm people, is their ability to care deeply while holding lightly. They invest themselves fully in relationships, causes, and experiences, yet they don't cling to specific outcomes. This isn't apathy, it's a sophisticated form of engagement that recognizes the difference between influence and control. They show up completely for their children. While understanding they cannot prevent every disappointment or mistake, they give their best effort at work while accepting that some factors remain beyond their influence. They love deeply while recognizing that loving someone doesn't mean you can protect them from all pain or guarantee the relationship's form will never change. This paradoxical approach, full engagement without attachment, represents emotional maturity at its highest level. It allows them to experience life's richness without being destroyed by its inevitable losses and changes. They've learned that trying to grip life too tightly often causes it to slip through their fingers, while holding it with open palms allows them to appreciate its beauty without fear of its transience. The cultivation of presence. Calm people share another remarkable quality: they inhabit the present moment more fully than most. While others are mentally rehearsing future conversations or rehashing past events, they've trained their attention to rest in the here and now. This isn't a spiritual concept as much as it is a practical one. Presence is where peace lives. When you're truly present, you're not fighting battles that exist only in memory or imagination. You're not defending against threats that may never materialize or trying to solve problems that haven't yet occurred. You're simply here, aware, responsive to what actually is, rather than what might be or what was. This presence manifests in small but profound ways. They make eye contact during conversations, not because they've been taught it's polite, but because they're genuinely interested in the person before them. They taste their food, notice changes in weather, and can sit in silence without needing to fill it with noise. Their attention isn't scattered across multiple stimuli. It's gathered, focused, available. The practice of selective engagement. Perhaps most importantly, calm people have mastered the art of choosing their battles. Not everything deserves their energy, attention, or emotional investment. They've developed sophisticated filters that help them distinguish between what requires their response and what they can safely ignore. This discernment isn't about being dismissive or uncaring. Instead, it's about recognizing that their energy is finite and precious, and that squandering it on every minor irritation or drama depletes their ability to be present for what truly matters. They understand that saying yes to everything means saying no to the things that deserve their best attention. When someone tries to provoke them with criticism or drama, they might think, "This person is in pain and projecting it onto me. This isn't really about me." I can acknowledge their struggle without taking on their emotion. Or when faced with a situation they cannot control, they might recognize, "I can influence this outcome through my choices and actions, but I cannot guarantee it. I'll do what I can and release attachment to the result." The wisdom of weathered souls. Most profoundly calm people carry within them the wisdom of experience, often difficult experience. They've been through seasons of chaos, periods of intense emotional turmoil, times when they felt completely lost or overwhelmed. But instead of being broken by these experiences, they were shaped by them. They learned through lived experience what cannot be taught through books: that emotions are temporary, that crises eventually resolve, and that their essential self remains intact, regardless of external circumstances. This isn't to say they seek out difficulty or believe suffering is necessary for growth. Rather, they've integrated their challenging experiences into a broader understanding of life's rhythms. They know that joy and sorrow, success and failure, connection and solitude all have their seasons. They've stopped trying to live permanently in the pleasant experiences and stopped believing that difficult ones define them. The ripple effect of calmness. When someone embodies genuine calm, it affects everyone around them. Their nervous system's regulation helps regulate others' nervous systems through what scientists call co. Their steady presence gives others permission to slow down, breathe deeply, and reconsider their own reactivity. In families, they become the stabilizing force that helps everyone navigate turbulent times. In workplaces, they're often the ones colleagues turn to during crises because their perspective helps others see beyond immediate panic to longer, more-term solutions. In friendships, they offer the gift of being fully listened to without judgment or immediate advice. This influence happens without effort or intention. They're not trying to calm others. They're simply being themselves. but their authentic embodiment of peace creates space for others to find their own center. It's a quiet form of leadership that doesn't announce itself, but transforms environments simply through presence. The daily practices of peace. While calmness might seem like an innate gift, it's actually maintained through consistent, often invisible practices. Calm people tend to have routines that protect their inner state. These might include morning moments of silence before checking phones, regular walks in nature, evening reflections on the day's experiences, or simply pausing to take 3 deep breaths before entering stressful situations. They're also careful about what they consume, not just food but information, entertainment, and social interactions. They limit exposure to unnecessary drama, choose media that informs rather than inflames, and spend time with people who enhance rather than drain their energy. They understand that maintaining inner peace requires conscious choices about what they allow into their mental and emotional space. The evolution of strength. Perhaps most remarkably, calm people have redefined strength itself. In a culture that often equates strength with dominance, volume, or aggressive assertion, they embody a different kind of power. The power of self-possession, the strength to remain centered while others lose their balance, the courage to be soft in a hard world. This strength doesn't come from never being hurt or challenged. It comes from learning to remain themselves regardless of external circumstances. They've discovered that you don't have to become hard to survive difficult experiences. You can remain open while being wise, vulnerable while being boundaried, gentle while being firm. Their strength shows in their ability to sit with others' pain without trying to fix it, to disagree without becoming disagreeable, to stand firm in their values without becoming rigid in their thinking. They demonstrate that true power isn't about overpowering others, but about being so grounded in yourself that you cannot be easily shaken or swayed. The invitation to stillness in our hyper-connected, constantly stimulated world. Calm people offer a different way of being, one that prioritizes depth over speed, understanding over reaction, presence over productivity. They remind us that we don't have to match the world's frantic pace to be valuable or engaged. They show us that slowing down often leads to seeing more clearly, that pausing before responding usually leads to better outcomes, and that inner peace is not selfish, but essential for being truly helpful to others. Their example invites us to question our own relationship with reactivity. Do we respond to life, or does life happen to us? Are we choosing our emotions, or are our emotions choosing us? Can we find space between stimulus and response, between feeling and reacting, between caring and suffering? The calm people among us have answered these questions through lived experience. They've discovered that peace is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of inner stability while facing them. They've learned that you can feel deeply without drowning, care intensely without suffering unnecessarily, and engage fully while maintaining your center. The quiet revolution in the end. Calm people represent a quiet revolution, a return to inner authority in a world that constantly seeks to external validation, a commitment to depth in an age of surface mid-level living, a choice for peace in a culture addicted to drama. They haven't withdrawn from life. They've learned to engage with it more skillfully. They understand that the world has enough noise and needs more stillness, enough reaction and needs more response, enough chaos and needs more peace. By embodying these qualities themselves, they create the change they wish to see without preaching, teaching, or demanding. They simply live differently, and in doing so, they give others permission to consider a different way of being. Their presence in our lives is a gift, a reminder that peace is possible, that storms do pass, that we are more resilient than we sometimes believe. They show us that calmness is not about avoiding life's difficulties, but about meeting them from a place of inner strength and wisdom. In a world that often feels overwhelming, they offer something profoundly hopeful, the possibility of finding stillness within the storm, not by escaping it, but by learning to dance with it. And perhaps that's the most important lesson they teach us. That peace is not a destination you reach, but a way of traveling, not a state you achieve, but a practice you cultivate, not something you find outside yourself, but something you remember within. In remembering this, they help us remember it too. And in that remembering, the quiet revolution continues, one peaceful moment at a time.